button below.
And we're streaming live now too, Brian.
For those of you in Melbourne,
perfect. All good.
Yeah.
Of this lockdown period. And I implore you to strictly follow the rules in place, as this will sooner get us all back to watching our favourite sports live in the stadiums with an ice cold Asahi in our hands. Thank you again from everyone at the Startup Bootcamp team, and we'll see you at our next event, our FinTech program. Cheers.
Hey everyone, so welcome to the IntelliCup room. That was really great, that demo day. The production, I was so proud of what the team put together there. And it was interesting to see, how the teams have progressed over the last, 3 months. We really do thank our sponsors and everybody for, getting behind this. And you've come to the best room with Brian and I. We're the beer room, and for some odd reason they gave me this room to look after, which suits me just fine. This is the Q&A section. This is where you can get to ask Q&As to the founder. You could drop a comment. If you've got my details also, you could just WhatsApp me. I've got my WhatsApp open as well, so if that's another way to get through if you can't get through on the Q&A session. So you can just look to ask any questions there, and we'll get into them. I've got a series of questions already that I've had submitted in to ask Brian about, to dig a little bit deeper into him. So firstly, Brian, CEO of IntelliCup, welcome to the live stream. How are you today, Brian?
Yeah, fantastic, Trevor. I think you guys have done an awesome job in this COVID day and age, getting the demo days live, so to speak. So yeah, excited to go through the Q&A and provide some more detail for the people that are interested.
Yeah, and Gary Palmer, hey, the harder I work, the luckier I get. That's something that you live by, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, listen, Gary's a Golfer Hall of Fame and one of the most famous South African sportsmen, but a really dedicated worker, basically. So he never takes things for granted. He doesn't stand on pedestals. He'll get his hands dirty, and he's a grafter, and he's made himself successful. And I actually don't even know how old he is, but he continues to drive his business to this day. I mean, he must be like close to 80, if not over. But yeah, he's still actively involved in all of his business ventures.
Oh, that's cool. How often do you get out and have a hit on the golf course, Brian?
I've got 2 sets of golf clubs in the garage, which I haven't touched for months.
Oh, really? Yeah.
No.
All the golf courses are closed here. When we came down to stage 3 restrictions, the first time around they didn't let us play, but the second time around we were able to play. But yeah, now we're all shut here as well. So yeah, it's a little bit of a shame, but I think the greens will be beautiful by the time we get back on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So look, let's just start at the top and give me the 30-second recap IntelliCup. Yeah.
Perfect, Trevor. Yeah, IntelliCup is basically a quick, cashless, and hygienic beer and beverage pouring system, which benefits merchants and customers. I mean, the truth is that endless event queues for barely acceptable beer offerings and anonymous customers feeling undervalued don't deliver a great brand equity in this day and age. So IntelliCup's hygienic and cashless solution, we're around 4 times faster than a normal draft pool, and we eliminate queues and crowding whilst increasing merchant profitability and then also delivering an innovative data platform from a customer perspective. So with a large potential 400 million plus turnover company with around 90 to 100,000 heads in operation, yeah, we're seeking investment at either local, regional, or international level to accelerate growth. So that's the kind of 30.
Well, there's a lot in that 60-second pitch there, and that's really good, Barry, to unpack that. I'm just going to start with a really, really simple one because I'm a kind of dumb guy, and it's going to be like, what products can you pour through it? Does it behave differently with different products or different beers or things of that nature? Yeah, tell me what you've tested and poured through the system.
We've tested and actually poured successfully with all types of beer, so lagers, ales, IPAs. We've poured ciders, we've poured pre-mixed mixed drinks with alcohol, we've poured soft drinks quite successfully, as well as waters. So the system is able to be dialed in for a variety of product solutions. And that's just based on kind of the temperature that you want to pour at and the pressure that you put through the system and kind of how you dial it in. But we've been successful even pouring Guinness at live events, which is, for us.
Oh, that's fantastic. I'd love some of that. So give me a breakdown of, you talk about pouring different things and so forth. So give me a quick breakdown of an actual event deployment. How would it work in practice? Like, how would the event go ahead with putting IntelliCup in and activating their event?
So Trevor, there's two ways that can be done. We've made the IntelliHead modular, so it can get retrofitted into an existing cold chain, or it can be made into mobile solutions. So depending on the event infrastructure and the task that they'd like to do, if they would like to get queues and crowding away from existing serving counters, then we would advise them to put in mobile solutions. If they just wanted to dispense quicker and be able to manage their product, manage losses, manage profitability and staff costs, then obviously it could get retrofitted into an existing counters. So it's a pretty simple solution. With the mobile IntelliHead, we can be up and running within 30 minutes, and that's just really waiting for the mobile chiller to cool down so that we can obviously pour beer successfully. And the mobile chillers can take room temperature beer to 2 or 3 degrees from a pouring perspective within a 12-second pour. So mobile fixed, and all we would need would be an IntelliHead, obviously the merchant app and the customer app and the merchant hub are obviously all live and operational. And then we would just need to be able to dispense cups to customers from a kiosk, and the system's operational.
Okay. And like how many, just say I've got an event of 30,000 people and I'm trying to serve beers to that kind of, that audience size, how many units would I, be looking at there?
So Trevor, again, it comes back to whether you want to make mobile solutions or, put in fixed solutions. Our advice would be to put the biggest volume beers onto an IntelliHead solution, and we would then be able to push at least 4 beers per minute through the system, meaning one bar staff could be overseeing 4 IntelliHeads at any particular time, and one barman could be overseeing the pouring of 16 drinks a minute. And their job would be to kind of change over kegs and ensure that there's always kind of fresh beer on tap for people to be able to pour. So it would depend on kind of the areas that the event would like to kind of resolve around queues and crowding, and how quickly they would like to push beverages to people. And then some of these could be in fixed solutions, and if events are getting bigger crowds than normal, then the mobile opportunity comes in, and they could roll in mobile solutions to cater for the larger crowds at particular times. So we've tried to develop the solution that's not hugely costly for an event to put in an infrastructure, that they could have a part infrastructure in place with mobile solutions that could come in for bigger events.
Oh, cool. I've got some customer kind of experience questions, but we've got a question in from Steve Murray. He's asked if you're in South Africa or Melbourne. And so over to you, just know where you are.
Cape Town, South Africa. I'd love to be in Melbourne, and I'd love to be pouring live for you guys. But unfortunately, that's not possible at the moment.
but you have a representative here now, and what are the plans for Australia, Brian?
So we're quite excited that through the Startup Bootcamp process, we were introduced to Carl Delina. And Carl, as per the intro video, was going to be a mentor, and then he migrated fairly quickly into discussing the licensee opportunity for Australia. So Carl has become our licensee. And the way that we operate around the world is that the patents and the license rights are within our holding company. And then we set up a structure per country of operation. We open an IntelliCup company in the country. We then sign up a local licensee who then partners with infrastructural partners. And then we work with people on the ground. We don't believe from an IntelliCup perspective that we have the network, the contacts, the infrastructure to be able to kind of build out in each particular country. And we'd far rather create sort of job opportunities and sharing in each country in partnership with people that are knowledgeable and networked and have the ability. So, we're excited that Carl is part of the team.
Yeah, excellent. And so when will you be up and ready to go in Melbourne? When would Carl be able to start doing installations and
so Carl's Carl's received, I think he's got 4 or 5 Intelli heads at the moment, just to kind of upgrade training and get comfortable with the system. And then he's been kind of talking to his network through Delaware North and CUB and Asahi, which obviously we were introduced through the Startup Bootcamp program as well. And all of those guys are wanting kind of live demos as soon as legally allowed. So, yeah, Trevor, our problem worldwide in the UK and in Australia has been the fact that we haven't been able to get in front of either clients, partners, or in actual fact, our licensees due to COVID restrictions. But I'm pleased to say that we're going live in South Africa from tonight. So our restrictions were lifted on Tuesday, and our first client signed up and said, they're pouring live in the V&A waterfront, which is a large kind of tourist attraction with restaurants and pubs and entertainment areas. So, we at least tonight. So, we're just waiting for restrictions to be...
Congratulations on that. I wish I was there to grab a beer. Steve's asked another question about how many units were sold last year. So let's give it just a quick recap on the 3-year history of IntelliCup at this point and to where you are today. Can we do that, Brian?
Yeah, sure. So we're still in a startup phase, and we've got units in the UK, the US, now in Australia, as well as in South Africa. And we haven't tried to build too far ahead of our development, not knowing whether we needed any other tech development in the Intelli head itself, or whether we needed to change our customer app or the hub or whatever it might be. But we're pretty agile to be able to move forward. And then part of our reasoning for participating in the Startup Bootcamp program is to source potential funders, either at a local level. Somebody could invest, for example, into the Australian license, or at a regional level, or at an international level, so that we could build out further assets, that we could fund the startup operations in each of the entities and take it from there. So there are kind of heads operating all of those countries, but we don't necessarily have a pipeline of stock waiting to supply. As I said, managing kind of the tech if we needed to update before we went into kind of big market offerings, as well as kind of seeing where we needed to focus on from a country and investment point of view.
Oh, cool. So I've got a question here from Wayne Harris. Around the consumer experience. Does the customer get the cup at the event, take it home? Do they hire it for the day? So tell us about the customer experience. Walk us through, how that looks for Trev when he turns up at the MCC or MCG to watch an event. What the experience like? And Wayne's question about the cup and how do I get it and who owns it and all of that kind of side of things. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, Trevor. So there's a number of ways that events and entities can manage cups. So they could either sell the cups if they wanted to sell them as trophy cups or branded cups, or otherwise event entities could keep them in circulation. And what we've done on the customer app, and I'll get to the customer journey now, is we've built in a digital kind of cup deposit system. So on entering a stadium, a customer could collect a cup from a kiosk. As soon as they link that cup to their account, given that they're a registered user, the system immediately takes a cup deposit and links it against their credit card. They can then use that cup for the period of the event. And on leaving the event, whether it's a music concert or a sports game, they can hand that cup back to a merchant, or they can scan it and put it into a drop bin, and that deposit is automatically removed from their credit card bill. So that keeps cups in circulation, and obviously it's a big sustainability option and reduces carbon footprint, and it also means an enhanced profitability opportunity for the merchant, because what they're doing is obviously keeping cups in circulation, washing them and recycling them. And that can be done with either our current biodegradable cup, or it can be done with a premium style Triton or plastic glass style cup, which could be used for more premium events, or more premium style offerings like a Peroni as an example. The customer journey is pretty simple. If you are a non-user, it literally takes you around 2.5 minutes from downloading the app to registering, to linking your cup, to docking it, and the fact that you can then drink a beer. If you're already a registered user, all you need to do is open your app, activate your account, scan the cup, dock it, and you'd be drinking within 20 seconds, basically. So the customer journey, literally, as a new user, is a 4-step process. Download the app, register, link a cup, dock, and drink. So pretty simple from a customer perspective. All the tech sits behind the scenes in terms of the hub and the tracking of cup usage, the cashless payments, and obviously the live auditing, as well as the consumer data upside.
Oh, cool. Cool. So I get the app, I activate it, then I'm scanning the cup, whacking that it on the Intelli head, and within 20 seconds I'm drinking beer. Yeah? Is that so?
Yeah.
The big question is, how good is the beer? How good's the beer when it comes out? Because that's the main thing. Yeah.
What we try to, yeah, I agree, Trevor. I agree. What we try to do is focus on perfect serve. So we haven't tried to be the quickest bottom full or the quickest automated beer dispenser in the market, because we know that trying to force beer into a system quite quickly doesn't do much for a beer. It affects the carbonation, it affects the flavor, and in the end, it affects sessionability. So we've tried to create a system where your beverage is poured anywhere between 8 to 12 seconds, depending on the beverage type and the level of carbonation and the head that you want. But trying to kind of focus on that perfect serve, and also from a cup perspective, that it's a good quality cup, be it our current recyclable, biodegradable type cup, or in the future, the Triton style premium glass. All of those would be around ensuring sessionability, freshness of beer, and the fact that you would want to go back for another one. So, yeah, we've focused on the quality side of it versus just the speed side of it.
Hey, I've got another question for Steve, and I'm not sure whether or not it's a repeat about how many units were sold. So I'll just recap on that, Steve, that the IntelliCup's a startup. It's been going for 3 years with development. They've got trialing all around the world, and they're serving their first commercial beers in South Africa today, which is fantastic. But they've got trials running across a number of different sites. Steve has a follow-up question around what have you done with Budweiser, if anything. So could you address that, Brian?
Yeah, absolutely. We were introduced to Bud in the UK, and obviously it's part of the InBev team. So we were hoping to do live trials at the InBev head offices in the UK this week, but unfortunately nobody's allowed into their premises yet. So a lot of corporates obviously still have a lockdown from outside people coming into their premises. So we're actually working with kind of the head of dispense. I think it's a guy called Warren White, and we're waiting for a demo, which will hopefully be kind of early next week, as soon as kind of legalities allow or the corporations allow us to get in. So that's in particular with Bud and the InBev team directly. We've also done quite a bit of pouring with the O2 Arena. And as soon as the O2 Arena in London is allowed to physically have spectator events once again, we'll be pouring in conjunction with AEG Worldwide, the Levy Group, which is part of Compass, as well as InBev, who are the beverage sponsors for the O2 Arena. I'm not sure what product they will use in it at this stage because they own a number of brands, or they might kind of pour a variety through the system. But coming back to pouring bud, we've poured a lot of bud in the US very successfully, and obviously it's one of the go-to products that we do use for demos and trials in the US market.
Cool. I've got a couple of other questions that have come in. What are the impacts of COVID in terms of IntelliCup and in terms of hygiene and reducing crowd queues and things of that nature? So do you see that that's going to help IntelliCup and you've got a good proposition there post-COVID, Brian?
Yeah, I'll tell you what COVID's done to us is that we were about to go live in South Africa with kind of a major sports league, which was exciting for us in March, as well as go live at the NEC Birmingham or the Birmingham Arena, as well as the O2, and everything just got shut down. So 4 months ago, I'd be kind of talking about lots of events and lots of activity which was taking place. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to do it for now. But what has happened is that we always developed a hygiene side of IntelliCup. The docking station has got a self-washing solution. So every time a cup is docked, there's a little pump which can pump water or either a cleaning solution through the docking station, and it cleans that docking station as well as the injector. And then a person has control of their own particular cup for the lifespan of an event. So it's turned out that through COVID, we actually have a very strong COVID solution. We know through testing with international hygiene companies that there's no germ-to-germ transfer through our docking station from cup to cup. So we covered from that point of view. And the fact that we're a cashless solution, so you don't have a barman or a barback with multiple touch points, taking cash, touching your cup, touching a tap, or handing a cup over. It's a completely self-managed solution from a customer point of view. So once you've got your app registered and you have your cup, you physically don't touch anything else from a pouring perspective. All you do is put your cup into the docking station, it dispenses, off you go, and it then cleans itself after every single time. So, there's no germ transfer. So in actual fact, we've got a very strong COVID-based solution as it turns out.
We're going to go IntelliCup, contactless beer. Yeah? Right there. You don't have to touch anybody. Yeah. Hey, I've got a question here from Ricardo. He's saying, what if a user is not that thirsty? Can they drink, say, half a cup and only be charged for that? He must be a student, I think. Yeah. What do you think of that idea, Brian?
Yeah. Look, it's potentially a development opportunity down the road that people could select on the app what they would like to do. At the moment, it's a setting that the merchant puts onto the hub, and each IntelliHead is then set for a specific beverage type and a beverage volume and a beverage price. So we've created those particular settings in the meantime to ease and obviously speed up the pour. We did think of cartridge type solutions that one IntelliHead could try and dispense a number of types of beverage. But when you get into that, you actually break down the speed of the ability of the system to be able to pour, because you've got people then trying to select either via an app or via an on-screen solution. And then the COVID thing comes back into play. So it is a development down the road, but at current, if you dock your cup into an IntelliHead, you will get what the setting is that the merchant has done. But the merchant can change that setting at any particular time. So if he wanted to do a happy hour, as an example, for the last half an hour of an event, he could reduce his price or his volume or whatever it might be, just to actually push the rest of whatever beer he's got through the system before the event closes. So it is adaptable from that point of view, but the merchant controls that versus the customer controlling it at this point in time.
And I suppose you could implement the responsible serving of alcohol regulations in there as well then, yeah, in terms of in dispensing.
Correct. So Thanks for reminding me on that one, Trevor. What we've got is an age verification process in the app. So on registering, if a country wants it, we prompt people to either scan their driver's license or their ID card or their passport, and it does an age verification. And when a merchant then sets up their pouring IntelliHead, whether they're pouring alcoholic product or non-alcoholic, they can set the age linked to that IntelliHead in the product that they're pouring. And if a person obviously can't confirm their age, the system will not dispense for them. So we've got that to factor in. And then also, because the system is less time consuming from a barman point of view, your barman have actually got more time to interact with customers and look them in the eye and manage them versus kind of trying to take cash and pour a beer and hand it over at the same time. So barmen become your kind of responsible officers in a way because they've got more time to interact with
and can really get to that customer service side of things. So let's just talk a little bit about the business now. It's in terms of the business of IntelliCup. Talk about the product economics and so forth, the implementation costs and all of that kind of thing. Dig into that. Are we saving the venues money? How does it come together? What are the ongoing costs? Cleaning, replacing cups, those sort of things. Brian?
Perfect. In our learnings around the world, events companies can waste anything from 8% of their beer up to 30% of their beer on big occasions. And at big events, when they're serving, 200-300 kegs, 10% is 30 kegs, and that's just wasted cash. It's kind of money thrown down the drain, basically.
Yeah.
So IntelliCup is a completely closed loop solution. So we have a flow meter in the system, and we measure every cup docked, volume through the system, and money in the bank account. So we can track pouring success rate, and we can measure obviously where the volume is going and if it's wasted, and give reasons as to why there is wastage to allow merchants to kind of manage that side of their business. Also taking cash out the system, you minimize cash loss, cash management fees, obviously all of the insurances and things that go kind of with that. And also your freebies disappear, because we can track everything that's gone through the system. And then, aside from that, there's the staff management costs. So as I said earlier, if you've got one barman that can be managing kind of pouring 16 beers a minute and just changing over kegs, there's a massive upside on staff management costs. And then it gets down into the detail of reuse of cups. So our cup is obviously more expensive than a throwaway cup, but the fact is that it can be used, 80 to 100 times, and you can change out the little non-return valve and keep it in circulation. So there's a lot of management on the cup side, which is huge from a cost-saving perspective as well. We've got a little ROI model, and whatever way we try and plug the numbers, even in the worst case scenario, an entire IntelliHead installation, including a mobile chiller and a table and an IntelliHead and a number of cups, it comes down to a 3-month payback period. And that's on a very base end. So it is a big profitability driver. And that's also then ignoring all of what you can do with the back-end data in the system at the end of the day. So the value of your customer data down the road in terms of tracking types of events that they like, the types of beverages, how regularly they drink and at what events, that's kind of untold value kind of, from a future marketing perspective.
So just, if there's investors watching this, you mentioned a $450 million market for IntelliCup. Unpack that a little bit for me, Brian.
Yeah, Trevor. So, our kind of, I suppose if you want to say our total addressable market, when you look at the draft beer market around the world, it's about a $2,800 billion market. It's a huge market. The hectoliters, I can't even put the noughts in because it confuses me. So,
how much of that do you drink, Brian?
Probably not enough since I've been on this program. And then our service available market is probably around about $600 to $700 billion. So what we've done is that our model is not necessarily a binary model. The number of IntelliHeads, you don't have to have a certain number to get into profit. You've just got to use those IntelliHeads as regularly as possible at the right events, pouring the right product. So with 90 to 100,000 IntelliHeads in operation at base pouring levels, the opportunity for holding company is looking at I suppose, a revenue stream of around 450 million US dollars. So those 90 to 100,000 IntelliHeads, our split is across the US, the UK, Australia, South Africa, Japan, Germany. In actual fact, we've done our model based on where we've got our patents at the moment, but it doesn't mean that we have to stop there. Obviously, it can go into other territories and other markets as well. So it is looking at a significant upside, given obviously what it can do, and that's also only factoring beer revenue. It's not factoring in app revenue, revenue sharing, data upsides, and all of those additional revenue streams which come through kind of the app and the database that will get built over time.
But if I take that 90,000 IntelliHeads and I just break it down, I think you mentioned about 9 countries, so there's like say 10,000 going into the US. Who would the customers be for those 10,000 IntelliHeads? How many customers would you need to have in the US, say, to use up 10,000 IntelliHeads?
You know, when you look at the size of those markets, in the US, it's completely different, because a beer garden could be serving anything from 800 to 1,000 people a night. So a beer garden in the US could well use, 2 or 3 IntelliHeads, use them to shift crowds and queues away from current bar counters, and use their existing staff to upsell more profitable items. So in the US, we could literally have, we could have 10,000 clients in the US operating IntelliHeads, and there could be 20,000 units in operation. But something like the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta could well be using 40 to 50 IntelliHeads on their own for big game days, or otherwise, infrastructural partners could put IntelliHeads into huge Pantechnicons and drive them from venue to venue. So part of the initial discussions we had with NASCAR, I was lucky enough to be able to present to Steve Phelps, who's the president of NASCAR internationally, and he had an idea for actually moving a truck from venue to venue as they go to all their race circuits. So again, that would come back to part fixed installation and then part mobile for when they run their big events like Daytona or Indianapolis that could roll out those solutions. So yeah, coming back to your answer, Trevor, yeah, sporting clubs, conference venues, hotel venues, big beer gardens, and then obviously their big stadiums, of which there are many because of the sports types. So basketball, obviously American football, baseball in minor league, and in obviously the professional league. It carries on and on.
Yeah, the numbers stack up quite quick. Yeah, and yeah. So what made you start this company, Brian? Where did the passion come from for pouring beer? Yeah,
it was a garage thought originally, and it came from standing in queues and getting a crappy beer at the end of the day. You get shoved into a queue, you've got 10 minutes of half time, you grab something that's unappealing, and then some stadiums, kind of take a can and pour it into a plastic cup because they don't want you to have cans because they become weapons and all the rest of it. And it was just nonsensical. So we started with a quick beer pourer, and it had a hydraulic foot pump, and it filled 4 beers from the bottom at once. And we thought, okay, that's very clever. And we started developing around that until we got a single pouring head for a unit that's the size of a normal office desk. And we were then asked by a tech company to go to Rotterdam and expo at a show, which we did. And at that show, we got our first angel investor who saw the benefit. And then we also thought, we're not going to be carting around a 200 kilogram pouring dispensing unit, which was all in one, chilling solutions and everything else. It just wasn't practical. And from the angel investor, we then started making up the modular IntelliHead. So it was literally at a show in Rotterdam where we kind of said, hey, tech companies love this. Everybody loves the idea. Everybody loves the ability to pour themselves a beer. Let's develop this into something that is easily transportable, can be made mobile, can get retrofitted. And that's where we went into the alpha, beta, and now the commercial prototypes, which you kind of saw in the video. So, yeah, it was a long process.
And you talk about we there, Brian. So just tell me a little bit about the other two co-founders with you, yeah?
Yeah, so my partner, Gary Harrod, who comes out of the construction industry, he kind of got in at an early stage as well. And he was my partner when we went to Rotterdam, which was fantastic. Also a passion for innovation and development and for, building out successful models and implementing them. Also very strong on the procurement side in terms of being able to kind of find the right partners. Also to say from a license perspective, we don't necessarily think we're going to produce all of these things all the time in South Africa. We'll find licensee partners that will produce cups as well as IntelliHeads around the world. And then a young mechatronics engineer, Miguel, who also partnered us from the very beginning and now has become a kind of a permanent employee of the team. So from a mechatronics point of view, the ability to understand sort of the mechanization of the IntelliHead, but as well as all of the firmware and the software development, to such an extent that we've taken all of that development in-house. So we control our app, we control our merchant hub, and everything we do is kind of in-house from that perspective. So it makes us agile as well, be able to kind of change things up, bespoke solutions, white labeling solutions for various clients, making our app, our Intelli app, a buy a beer button into an existing stadium app. So all of those are kind of opportunities for us with the team that we built.
Yeah. And I haven't really touched on the data, but you must be getting a lot of data around beer usage and things of that. You can imagine that you collect a lot of data. Will IntelliCup have access to that data? And do you think, what are the kind of use cases or how do you think that data will be valuable to the beer manufacturers and others? Yeah.
Yeah, so there's two big sets of data that come out the system. Number one is the merchant data. So that's everything linked to the actual IntelliHeads themselves. So each merchant that signs up has access into the IntelliHeads, which are registered and are given to them. And they can then track, as I said earlier, cups stocked, volume through the system, money in the bank account, pouring success rate. All the IntelliHeads geolocate themselves so that they can see within a stadium where the best successes come from. And they can also see if there's certain areas that have had higher wastage or less success, reasons why. Was the beer pressure not right? Was the temperature not right? Was the positioning not necessarily correct? Also tells you new users into the system, returning users. So there's a host of merchant data that they can use to drive profitability and drive success. And then obviously, given rules, the merchant data is freely accessible, as I said, to each merchant that's using, and we have globular access into that merchant data worldwide. So we can pick up trends, we can look at beer types, if there's greater usage of any particular person. And then the customer data is obviously held separately and securely, but that customer opportunity is huge. I know a lot of brewers around the world are seeking ways to speak to customers at point of consumption. So how do you actually speak to a person once they are drinking their beer? And IntelliCup, a few systems internationally, through the geolocation of the IntelliHead and the fact that a registered user puts their cup into that IntelliHead, we know where they are, we know what event they're at, we know what beverage they're drinking, and you could be sending them vouchers, you could be sending them content, you could be doing some research with them. So it allows you a full-on, high-fidelity, one-on-one customer communication opportunity through the system. So there's huge value in that, given that people's point of consumption is around a cell phone these days. They're banking apps, they look for news, their social media, everything is off a cell phone. And we've got that ability through beer or beverage consumption to be able to kind of talk to them at the point where they are consuming that product.
Yeah, and look, we haven't really had time to really touch in on the sustainability aspects of this, but I know from venues here that pushing to trying to reduce waste and those plastic cups out of venues. So, Brian, I've just got like 2 minutes left, so I'm going to throw to you. What question haven't I asked you that you desperately want to answer and tell people?
Yeah, I think, Trevor, what would be our route to market in each country and what would be an ideal scenario, I think.
Yep. So what would be the route to market in each country, Brian, and what would be the ideal scenario around that?
Thanks for that question, Trevor. The way that we've done it, as I said earlier in the Q&A session, was around finding local partners on the ground. So people that have a network and people that can then involve themselves with infrastructural partners. We don't believe that we want to go and set up a competing type business to companies that install beer taps or have service level agreements to go and manage them. All we do literally is replace a beer tap at point of dispensing. And maybe we've got a simpler solution around the mobile units because you don't need as much piping and as much rigmarole to set up mobile solutions. But it would be working with those on the ground network partners and infrastructural partners to be able to kind of implement the business in either a kind of a fixed or a mobile solution. And then allowing people to trial, although you guys have done a most fantastic job, under COVID and these worldwide regulations at the moment, and inability of people to travel, just the joy that we've seen with people using the system, the fact that a user can pour their own beer, that it fills from the bottom, that they get a perfect serve, it's just a fantastic and unbelievable customer journey. So the brand equity is absolutely amazing. So for us to be able to get live, to do those demos in front of whether it's a Delaware North or CUB or a Sahi or any other event stadium like the MCG, it's an amazing experiential thing for people to do, and what joy it can bring to their customers and what peace of mind it gives to the brewers, as well as to kind of the merchants that are operating these systems around hygiene, around cashless, around proper customer journey, and around brand equity. So yeah, it's the getting live and the experiential side of it really excites people and wants people to come back for more and more. I mean, when we've done these events live, we've had more of a task moving people away from pouring IntelliHeads because they're just so excited to see other people actually do it as well. So it's
showing its own right. Yeah. Hey, Brian, look, it's been a pleasure to have you on the program. You've been a great contributor, and as one of the youngest startups on the program, you've really shown the energy, and it's really, really good that we've been able to bring you into Australia. And I know the people you've interacted here with have had the best words to say about you and the product and the whole approach. I think it's fantastic. So we thank you for your participation in the program. We'd like to thank everybody else for tuning in today. I think it's been a fantastic demo day. We hope you've enjoyed it. Remember, you can access these recordings after the event is up. You'll also be able to contact the startups via this website. And Brian would love for you to reach out, whether or not you think you can be an investor, potential employee, or have an event that you could trial IntelliCup at or put it out. He'd be very interested to talk to you. So look, thanks again, everybody. We hope you've enjoyed Startup Bootcamp Sports and EventTech 2020 Demo Day. We'll close now, and thank you again for your participation. Cheers.
Thanks, Trevor. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Brian.